Well, today, rather than just talk about the legislation that I've just introduced, the Safe Stay Act, I wanted to bring to everyone Leslie Lienemann, who experienced why we need this legislation to be the law of the land across the entire country. So, Leslie, thank you so much for being willing to share your story with everyone here today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Representative Craig. This bill is extremely personal to me because I have experienced carbon monoxide poisoning in a hotel along with my son. Our story is like the story of many other hockey parents and families across the country. My son had the opportunity to try out for a hockey team that was really important to him, and it was in a different state. So we traveled there intending to stay for 4 nights where he would skate and pursue his dreams. And what happened instead was that we ended up in the emergency room, having suffered acute carbon monoxide poisoning over 3 nights. And what troubled me and what hurt so much was, in addition to the physical ramifications of this for me and my son, because we have permanent injuries, is that I had no idea that I was bringing my son into an unsafe environment because there was no carbon monoxide detector. So even as we got sicker each night that we stayed, I didn't know that I needed to get us help. We were lucky we didn't die. We went to the emergency room, and we were lucky that the doctor tested our blood for carbon monoxide poisoning, and we were able to evacuate the hotel so that others were not injured. What I learned after that was that hotels generally are not required to have carbon monoxide detectors in most places in the country. And that means that other families are at risk every time they check into a hotel. And carbon monoxide is undetectable to the human senses. The only way that you will survive carbon monoxide poisoning is if you know that you need to seek help. And so that is why I asked Representative Craig to draft this bill, and I asked Congress to please pass a minimum standard, simply asking that hotels or requiring hotels to have carbon monoxide detectors so that people do not experience the illness and injury that we did.
Leslie, it's a shock to many of my constituents that hotels, Airbnbs don't already require carbon monoxide detectors, especially with so many stories of families who've lost loved ones after carbon monoxide poisoning. We're so, grateful that your situation wasn't worse, but that you and your son didn't die. But there were lasting health impacts of this as well. You led the fight in Minnesota to get a bill passed, the same sort of legislation that we're working on at the federal level now. So, talk a little bit about why this isn't just a common sense thing that hotels or Airbnbs provide, and what your greatest hope is for making sure that this never happens again to any family.
Well, I think most people are like me. They are not aware that when they see a detector in a hotel, it may only be a smoke detector, and it may not be detecting carbon monoxide, and it may not alert them to the gas when it's present. And so most people are surprised that this is not already required because it is such a common sense measure. And it isn't being implemented across the country, quite frankly, because there's no law or regulation that requires hotels to do it. And if it isn't required, they aren't going to do it. But just as an example, even if you just look at social media, even if you just look at news reports, every month over the last couple of years, you see across the country these carbon monoxide incidents. And quite often in a hotel setting, there's more than one victim. We were lucky, we didn't die, but many do. And so it isn't hard to prevent injury by carbon monoxide. All you have to do is detect an alarm so that people can be safe. So it is a very simple fix to a very prevalent danger.
Leslie, thank you so much for your advocacy, for trusting me with this federal legislation. I have a great partner in California, Congressman Mike Levin, who has his own devastating story from his congressional district. And by partnering with folks like you, it really does make a difference. So thank you so much for trying to make sure that no other family has to go through what you and yours went through or worse. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.